Greetings! We're going to be talking today about the Javazon, one of the more popular builds in Diablo 2. Particularly, we're going to use the Lightning Fury ranged ability. This ability will split lightning bolts on impact of a target. So if you target one enemy that's in front of other enemies, it will split into multiple, and it will chain split into all the enemies in front of you if you hit just one. Now, something it also does is if you pierce that one enemy and hit an enemy behind your primary target, it will also split off that enemy. So you can see where you can get a large amount of AoE and take down targets that might be a little bit more healthy than the damage would suggest from your Lightning Fury that you'd be able to take down. However, one of the downsides of Lightning Fury is you end up killing most targets, but it's hard to kill the remaining targets because, again, it's very low damage against a single target. So we have the Charge Strike, which is a melee ability. Generates charged bolts, multiple, like tons of charged bolts that come out of the lightning strike, the charged strike rather, and this allows you to take down single targets very rapidly. It's great for bossing. So we have a character here that's great at AoE and great for bossing. So it's like an all-in-one package, pretty neat. One of the difficulties though is on hell difficulty. While there aren't quite as many lightning immunes, while you're playing through, you do run into quite more than a little bit. That's for sure. But later in the progression, like in game, you will eventually have an infinity, and that will help you take down lightning immunes. It's one of the best elements to combine with an infinity, which is great news for this character at the end game. However, this guide we're just covering early to mid game, just getting you through hell basically is where we're going to end up. And I'm going to take the approach here of recommending gear that you should probably get. You don't necessarily have to have the what I would call 63 plus gear to get through the game. You can probably get by with gear like this and be just fine. However, these items are going to be recommended, and while it is not a budget build, I tried to strive for that and pick out items that were a little bit cheaper and you might have an easier time acquiring as you progress through the season. So even if you're not able to put together the builds I'm talking about here at the particular levels I'm recommending them, hopefully whenever you're able to acquire them, it'll feel the same, right? So it'll feel great to get them put together. So whether it's level progression or just gear progression that you're going through, hopefully this helps you out tremendously. One of the cool things about the Javazon is you don't need all these primo items to get through the game. Basically what you're going to be doing sub-level 30 though is you're basically a melee character. You're going to be using Power Strike, which basically just adds attack rating and lightning damage to your melee attack, and then you'll be putting points into Charge Strike whenever you can get that, and go through the game this way with your mercenary and yourself dealing damage at melee range. It's okay if you put up to 4 points into Power Strike early on. This will allow you to have something to deal damage with early on, and also it is a synergy to both Lightning Fury and Charge Strike. So it's not like you're wasting the points, it's just you don't want to spend too many points, because at a certain point later in the leveling process, you'll be putting points into both Lightning Fury and Charge Strike, which you'll want to be able to max out that benefit as much as you can. So we don't want to overinvest, but we don't want to underinvest either. One of the things about the progression here from 18 to 31 and so on is I wanted to keep it like a low strength setup viable. So you'll see here, even though we progress, we're not going to invest a lot physically into the stat strength or dexterity, which is pretty neat. So we're going to look for items like Hasaurus, the shield gives plus 10 strength, Twitch Throw gives strength and dexterity. Items like this are going to be great for keeping our stats in check without having to physically put those points in just yet. It saves us the points in the progression. One cool thing about this is you do get a lot of attack speed from the Twitch Throw and the Death's Hand set. It's going to allow you rather to hit higher frames at this lower difficulty, since you are doing a lot of melee. Being able to attack quicker is always nice. Another thing you're going to want is looking for plus mana after each kill javelins. So if you can get like a normal just javelin that has a magic affix in this, this will help sustain your mana while you're fighting density and allow you to get through the game a lot more. It's also great for when you finally get Lightning Fury, because as it kills enemies, it just restores your mana, and it's just nice to have as you're playing through the game. So just look out for javelins like this that have fast attack speed and mana after each kill. Other affixes that might be good on a magical javelin include increased quantity or restores quantity. I think you can get restores quantity and mana after each kill, so it's a possibility. There is nice, because you are going to be running back to town quite a bit to repair your javelins while you are leveling. It's just, unfortunately, you will kill faster with this build typically, but you will have to run back to town even more than a Bozon, in my opinion. So, because with the Bozon, you get a lot of arrows that drop on the battlefield, not so with the javelin. So, just something to note. After you get to throwing javelins, you got to be careful with throwing them earlier on. I would recommend mostly meleeing, but maybe in the earlier levels you can throw a little bit. And then as you get into 18 plus, you don't need to throw, but when you get back to 30, you'll start throwing again. So anyway, that's kind of the progression I see. We have a lot of items for resistances. The Aratha set at level 15 is going to give us tons of lightning, fire, all resistance, poison, length reduction. Pretty much covered by both the Death's Hand set and it's very nice. But these items, the crown in particular, requires high strength. This is why we go with the buckler again for the strength, to be able to give us that. We're also wearing the Hasaurus chain boots. You can get them at a low level. They give fire resistance, run walk, and if you wear 2 of the 3 items, you get attack rating. So this is what's going to be providing you the ability to hit enemies earlier in the game. It means you don't necessarily need the Angelic set. You can run Mana Leech as well with the Minalt Heal and the Life Leech from both the Cathan's Ring and the Death's Hand set bonus, coming in very handy there. Let's see, hit recovery from the Twitch throw is also quite nice here. Anyway, the hit recovery, you're going to want at least 1 charm in your inventory, gets you at the 7 frame breakpoint. Early on, this is perfect. And then just wearing a couple of charms for cold resistance helps balance that out. Maybe lightning if you can find some. Alternate items for early leveling. If you aren't able to get plus mana after each kill, instead of wearing the Aratha set, you could wear the mask with tier runes in it. This would give you mana after each kill instead. If you're not able to get or find the Death set, you can wear the Blood Fists. These give increased attack speed, life, faster hit recovery, plus the minimum damage. All great things, especially for a lower level. You can wear the Hasaurus belt instead. This would give you cannot be frozen, I believe, which the Death set does give as well already. But this is another way you could get cannot be frozen and get more lightning resistance as well, which is pretty cool if you don't have the Death set. Another option is the Aratha's Cord. So if you don't have the Death set and you just want to place this for more faster run walk, that can be quite nice as well. It also gives dexterity, plus 10 to dexterity. So that's a good option there also. And just going for a large shield with open sockets, just putting some like normal quality diamonds in them can get you quite high resistances as well. It's just, I felt that the benefits of attack rating and the plus strength from the Hasaurus especially outweigh this earlier on, since we're able to equip these other items anyway. For the follower, we're running the Dust Deep for resistances, plus maximum damage. For damage reduced by is also quite nice to keep your follower healthy at these lower levels. All resistances from the Darkglow Ringmail. Earlier on, the plus resistance will help out. Later on, when you're starting to get in the upper 20s, the plus and maximum resistances will help more from the Darkglow. It's just such a good low-level armor. Now, the Blood Thief brand stock will give you your life leech in this composition. It's one of my favorite mixes to go for early follower levels. One of the cool things here is, even though we could get a nice level of attack rating from going the offensive normal Act 2 Mercenary, from getting the Blessed Aim aura, I actually went with Prayer for 2 reasons. It's just a nice, Prayer aura is just nice to have because you don't have to use as many potions. You don't have to remember to buy as many potions in town. It just counteracts poison very well. However, one of the big things about this build you'll find is that you run quicker than oftentimes than your follower can follow you. And he has trouble keeping up with you sometimes, so better to not rely on that aura, especially for those earlier levels, which is why I went for the attack rating on gear rather than from the aura. That being said, you are slower earlier on, so if you want to opt for either, you can. It's just the prayer aura is really nice here. It's going to continue to be nice. One of the good things about this option, continue to be nice even all the way through Nightmare especially. So we finally made it to level 30. We've acquired our Lightning Fury skill and we're throwing Lightning Fury javelins, and so happy to be doing it finally after meleeing for so long. This is going to be a nice skill for AoE. However, at this point in the leveling process, it's quite costly, both in the number of javelins you are restricted because you only have a certain number of quantity, and you're also restricted on mana because your mana pool at this point, you have to remember we haven't been putting points into energy and your mana pool is very low, so we're going to have to do something to account for this and give you the mana regeneration and the mana pool to be able to serve up your Lightning Furies to your enemies, right? So for the mana pool, we're going to take a dual approach. We're going to use Charms, firstly, to give us a base level of plus mana. We're also going to get a ring with plus mana on it as well. If you can get one with plus mana and Magic Find, that's even better. But just Charms with plus mana will help out greatly here in getting your mana regeneration up, because mana regeneration, if you'll remember, is dependent on your total mana pool size being larger. So the larger your mana pool, the higher your mana regeneration will be, especially because at this point we will get the insight on our Act 2 Prayer Merc. He'll be very happy to have this weapon indeed. It doesn't have to be ethereal, but just getting like a halberd 4-socket or maybe a polearm 4-socket just to start out with would be quite nice. Get your mana regeneration to a good level, and that way you can spam Lightning Fury to your heart's delight. Something to note here as well is we are targeting a slower attack speed, you could say. We're not necessarily putting a lot of attack speed on gear. You can see here we're, while we could go up to 30 at this point, we're opting not to, just because you would spend all your mana at this point anyway. And what we're doing instead is kind of a dual approach. We've got the mana regeneration from Insight and the mana pool, and then we also have the mana per kill, which we had also earlier on in the leveling process. We're going to carry that over to our new throwing spear. And the reason we're going to want to go for a throwing spear is both it has a pretty fast base attack speed, but also it does more physical damage, which is going to start to be of some minor importance when you're entering into Nightmare, which is this point in the leveling process. You will come up on lightning resistant mobs. Some of the elite affixes will be spectral or resistant to your lightning, so having a higher physical damage base is always nice. If you can get one, get replenishes quantity as well. It's kind of hard to get that, but just getting the mana per kill at a very minimum would be very good at this point. And yeah, from here, to be able to take the brunt of the Nightmare difficulty, we're going to have to place a lot of resistances. So we're getting a Moser's Blessed Shield, and putting its 2 open socket item, so you can put perfect diamonds in there. And these will give all resistance as well. So the item comes with base 25 and then you get extra 38. Which is really good to give you base resistances. We're also getting our resistances at this point from charms. So the other charms that you're going to allocate are going to be like poison, fire, lightning resist charms. And this will be quite good. Remember that you get cold resistance from your piece, chest piece, which is going to take care of that portion. Now, something to note here as well with the resistances is that before you progress through Nightmare, you won't be fully capped. So once you complete the Act 5 quest, you'll be closer to capped on all of your resistances there. So just, note that as you're going through, you might have slightly lower resistances. Piece, chest piece, just plus to skills is going to be very nice for this build. The Lightning Fury skill and the Charged Strike in particular, they benefit greatly from plus to skills, even soft points. So getting that +2 Amazon skill levels is going to be nice here. As well with the Peasant Crown, we're wearing a helm that has plus to all skills. Also going to be quite nice at this level. And something to note with the piece, chest piece, it has the 2% chance to cast 15 level Valkyrie on striking. While this does summon a Valkyrie, currently in the game, I don't know if it's a bug or if it's just how the item normally interacts, but the Valkyrie that spawns only persists for more than a few seconds if you have a physical point into the Valkyrie skill itself. So unlike the Harmony bow that gives you level 6 O skills basically to Valkyrie, and the Valkyrie continues to live, the piece, chest piece does not do this. Even so, it's kind of sad because it's a level 15 Valkyrie and you don't get to use it, but there's a reason we don't allocate all of these points here. 2 reasons, in fact. Well, you really don't want to spend all the points just to get a level 1 Valkyrie. We'd rather continue leveling our Lightning Fury and Charge Strike skills at this point, preferring Lightning Fury to max and then, Charge Strike. But at this point we have extra skills, so you'll put, points into each until you run out of extra skills, and then you'll just level the Lightning Fury and then secondarily level the Charge Strike to max. That's the leveling progression we're going to take. So we can't spare that at this point necessarily. And secondarily, we don't want to allocate the evade, avoid, and dodge skills because we want to be getting hit. And it sounds kind of contra, but later in the leveling process, we're going to get a treachery chest piece for a really cheap way to progress through hell. And it's just such a nice way to do it as well. But it requires that you get hit by enemies to proc the Fade bonus, and Fade will give you a lot of resistances and damage reduction and that sort of thing. But to be able to do that, we don't want to pick up these skills at this point in the leveling process so that later we can actually use that and not get have our build sort of work against us is how it would be going. Aside from this though, the chest piece gives +2 to critical strikes, so physical damage is quite nice. Hit recovery though is going to be accounted for with the piece, chest piece as well, which is very good. You want your hit recovery to be quite high, so we have the 20% from the piece, and then we also have the Blood Fist Heavy Gloves giving us 30% there. And then we have 1 large charm, and this will get us to the 6-frame breakpoint, which is really good actually for this level, points in the leveling process. Blood Fists also give, life, minimum damage, attack speed. Attack speed will be from the Blood Fist and the Gold Wrap. And then we're also getting a lot of Magic Find and Gold Find from the Gold Wrap, and then Magic Find from the Tankreds as well. Now, something to note here is that the dexterity that you get from the Tankreds 2-piece boots and amulet is actually quite nice at this point in the leveling process as well, because it's saving you dexterity. You don't want to spend more points than we have to. Don't want to go any higher than 22 points invested. So we're also using charms to supplement that. So it's going to be the Tancred set and then +8 from charms, which would be 1 large charm and at least 3 + 3 from like small charms or something, right? So this is how we're getting that at this point, and later we will shed these charms because we will have more items that give dexterity. It's just something to note. Something I like about the Peasant Crown as well, though, is it gives a lot of faster run walk here. And because we're having to invest more into strength, higher strength requirement at this point as compared to earlier, and we're having to put more points into dexterity, a lot of our stat points are going there, we don't have as many to put into, say, vitality or energy. So having +20 to both on this item is quite nice. Also adding into your mana pool, like I was saying earlier, we were getting from charms in the ring, but we're also getting +2 energy, which gives mana from the Peasant Crown. So quite nice indeed. I think it's a good early game comp, and you can also keep backup, throwing spear on your alternate here. Would probably be a good thing to do if you can find 2 of them, just so you don't have to go to town quite as often. That would be my only thing. For the mercenary, we're using the prayer merc again, just going to help us out with healing automatically. And then we have a lot of life leech from his chest piece and helm to keep him alive at this point. Going to be nice as well. So once you've completed Nightmare, you'll transition to this build here, which is the kind of middling build where we're just trying to get a little bit more magic find, optimize our charm setup, and get our stats in play so that we can use a Titan's Revenge, which is going to be key for this setup. Now, one thing I also want to fit in is a higher strength chest piece, and I know it's a little bit difficult to do that, but having the higher defense is quite nice, and just having a like a Dust Shroud in general is going to be a little bit cheaper than, say, a Mage Plate 3 open socket, which are highly sought after for Enigma in particular. So a lot of people are going to be buying those up, so maybe going for just a Dust Shroud is going to be a nice composition here. So to account for the extra strength that we need and the extra dexterity that we need other items. You can't equip the Titan's Revenge unless you have the Cat's Eye, which is a required level 50, +25 dex. We also have the Ravenfrost, +20 dexterity. Same here, the Wealth gives you +10 to dexterity. So you can't equip this until you hit your strength requirement, and you can't hit your strength requirement until you get a Nosferatu's Coil, which is level 51 required. And it has a lot of other nice mods on it, aside from the plus strength, but at least for now, let's focus in on that. You want this, and you want charms that give to plus strength, at least +7. Same for dexterity, +7. This is so we can keep our stats at a low level, the same level as level 31, in fact, as we're transferring over into our lower strength setup, right? So we're going to use charms here. How we're going to free up the space for these charms is basically from resistances. So the resistance charms that we were using before, you'll only need like a poison resist charm now, and you can drop some of the other resistances because we're using a Rock Stopper Sallet. And the Rock Stopper is just highly efficient for both freeing up our glove slot and the charms, because it gives faster hit recovery, resistances, damage reduced by. It's just a great piece to have at this point in the leveling process. The faster hit recovery, we do lose our chest piece, so we are going to have to put a little bit more charm space to basically hit the same breakpoint. But aside from that, there's no issue in hitting that same breakpoint with having the Rock Stopper. Pretty cool indeed. Note the resistances here, they have a range, so your Rock Stopper might roll 20 on cold and lightning and as low as 20 on fire. Hopefully you can get one or trade for one that's at least middling on these, and then you can fill in the gaps, because we do have some empty charm slots that are just filled with like Magic Find charms plus the mana charms here. So you can fill those in with single resistance charms if your Rockstopper is lacking in that area. Hitting a higher attack speed breakpoint. The Nosferatu's Coil is also giving us 10% attack speed. Cat's Eye is giving us 20. So as we're continuing our gear progression here, we were at 12 frames, now we're at 11 frames, right? So this feels really good as you're going through the leveling process, and you just attack quicker, you deal with mobs a little bit better, and that's quite nice as well. Nosferatu's also gives Life Leech, which is going to be nice for restoring your health pool, because we do have a higher physical damage javelin at this point. You will be able to leech more. The Titan's Revenge as well also gives Life Leech, which is quite nice. Added damage, physical damage is higher, so getting rid of those physical immunes will be even easier now than before. And if you run into physical resistant mobs, they're basically non-existent after you're able to equip the Titan's Revenge, but you still want to be able to hit mobs, which is why we place, another reason at least, we place the Ravenfrost, because you do need that extra attack rating. Cold damage gives you something to, chill primary target of your attack, also a little perk there. And the Cannot Be Frozen is just super good for this level, because if you are chilled for whatever reason, your attack speed will decrease. Keeping this attack rate at this level is paramount, therefore we run Ravenfrost with Cannot Be Frozen here. Cold Absorb, nice perk. Plus the mana is also quite nice, because it means you don't have to have as many charms. We do still have our ring here with plus the mana to keep our mana pool quite high. Again, we want to preserve as much as we can our mana regeneration rate. It will dip a little bit at this point because we are starting to shed some of our plus the mana charms. However, we do get a little bit back from the feet because we are running the Silkweave Mesh Boots. These increase your mana pool by 10% and also give mana per kill. Mana per kill is going to be a huge stat that's going to increase the quality of life with this particular build iteration, because you can fit so much into the build. We're running the Silkweaves with +5. We have the Nosferatu's, as mentioned before. It also gives mana per kill and slows targets, so that's nice there. And then we have +2 from the Wealth. Lemko Tear. Tear Rune gives plus mana after each kill, so +9 total is just going to be so... Oh, it's so good when you're running this iteration. It feels nice, right? We're keeping the Mosers for resistances as before. Faster Run Walk from the Cat's Eye is going to increase your mobility, combined with the Titan's Revenge. Also very good. Something to note here with the Titan's Revenge is that it's very good to not only get, if you can manage it, get an ethereal version. However, those are kind of rare, so if you don't, that's fine. However, at least look for a second Titan's Revenge that you can keep on your offhand. So something you can do is, not only does the Titan's Revenge have an increased quantity of 140 javelins at this point, which is going to feel amazing, you can keep a second one on your offhand and just swap them back and forth. So you use one for a little while, swap it over, so that both of them can be replenishing quantity at the same time, because the javelin that's in your offhand can still replenish quantity even though you're not using it. So this is how you're going to sort of juggle these and keep from having to go to repair at the vendor, basically. The Wealth chest piece, as mentioned before, is going to provide us a lot of gold find, a lot of magic find. We're going to combine that with our empty glove slot, placing the chance guards. So these give magic find, gold find. You're going to have, just having the extra gold find at this point just feels great to me. But magic find, almost 200% and looking spiffy. Like, I love this composition. Mercenary at this point, I've already mentioned his weapon. Try and get like an exceptional weapon, like either a Back to Corbin or like maybe you could do like maybe a Partisan might be easier to find, right? Either of those would be good. It doesn't have to be ethereal, it can be normal. Vampire Gaze would be good if you can afford it or get it. However, these are pretty expensive, so you might Settle for just wearing your Worm Skull in the meantime, 5% life leech there. And then you tack on a Duriel Shell, which will also give your Mercenary, cannot be frozen, resistances plus the life, a lot of defense, which helps to keep him alive as well. Which is going to be quite nice for this time. We are keeping our Mercenary as the Prayer Merc. Once you get to Hell, you might be able to swap him, but for now, keep him as Prayer. Skills, didn't mention it, but you should try and just start to put points into your synergies. While we can technically put more points into Pierce at this time, and Pierce would be of a higher benefit, probably for certain situations, especially the cow level. I feel like at this point it's kind of transitory, and we will be getting more plus the skills, and we're going to be getting the Razor Tail belts later. So I feel like it's kind of a waste to have to respec if you put points into Pierce right now. So right now, just save them and put them into the synergies, and this will increase the DPS of your Charge Strike and your Lightning Fury just a tad, right? And so moving along, we've made it to level 63. We're progressing into Hell difficulty. You're going to notice a few things. You're going to run into a lot of lightning immunes in Hell. In particular, some whole levels are just all lightning immune. So it's going to be very important to keep your physical DPS very high. So that's going to be one focus of our variation here. Another focus is going to be swapping out some of our items for even more attack speed, increased resistances, because Hell difficulty has a higher penalty. To do this, we will swap out our chest piece for a Treachery. Treachery will give both increased attack speed, again allowing us to hit an even quicker frame breakpoint. So we went from 11 frames before, now down to 10, which is quite nice indeed. It's very zippy. But you're going to need this because you're going to have to chunk out a lot of Lightning Furies if you're going to take down physical immune monsters. And basically what you're doing is you're just shooting your Lightning Fury, but only using the physical DPS portion. That combined with your Mercenary is going to be enough physical DPS to take down the Lightning Immunes. That's how you're going to handle them as you're leveling and progressing. All you need to do is get through Hell one time, and then you can just farm cow. Hell cows is basically going to be your staple after you complete Hell. So you just need to have something on hand to get you through the lightning immunes. And this is how we're going to do it. Forgot to mention Venom. Venom is also going to be quite nice for helping you kill immunes because it does deal a lot of poison damage. It's one of the better poison damage spells with a shorter duration. Something to note is going to be just a really nice perk for going up against lightning immunes as well. Another thing you'll notice is the Treachery gives Fade on proc. Now, you won't always have the Fade enabled, so our resistances default will not be very good, and you'll take a lot of damage because of this. But remember, like before I said, we weren't allocating the dodge, avoid, evade because we want to get hit and preserve the Treachery bonus. This is why we're doing this. So as there are only a few levels that I remember where maybe like the Serpents in Act 2, like very slow attacking mobs that don't really hit you all that often, maybe cast spells a lot. There are only a few levels like that in Diablo 2 that exist. Usually there's a plethora of small enemies that will attack you and help to proc this bonus readily and keep it up. However, just notice that you will be losing a lot. What are you gaining when this is enabled or losing when it's not enabled? Fade gives resistances. It also gives curse resistance, which means the curse duration, such as when you are hit with an amplified damage curse, will be significantly reduced, which is always great. And then you're also getting a lot of damage reduction from the Fade as well. The cool thing here about the Fade is it's combining with your headpiece. So whether you're wearing a Harlequin crest or you're keeping your Rockstopper Sallet from before, this is the higher cost option, obviously, the Harlequin Crest. However, I like it because it gives plus life, plus mana, a lot of magic find, as well as plus skills, whereas the Rockstopper Sallet does not. So something to note though is if you are keeping your Rockstopper Sallet, it will give you extra hit recovery to get to a lower breakpoint. So you can get all the way as low as 5 frames or 86% faster hit recovery. Whereas if you're wearing the Harlequin Crest, all you can hit is 56. And this is still a great breakpoint to be at, to be able to recover quickly when we are taking damage from physical monsters. Something you can also do to help proc your fade is stand in, if there's like a fire patch on the ground, you can stand in those fire patches. Those will proc your fade also. So these are good things to do as you're just going through the zones. But the Rockstopper Sallet doesn't give the +2 to attributes, so you might have to allocate those. As you can see, I can't wear my pieces anymore. And charm setup right now, we're using a lot of single resistance charms to kind of support our Harlequin Crest. If you're using the Rockstopper, this will give you the resistances, but you won't have the plus mana. So you use mana charms instead of the single resistance charms. That's basically what you need to look out for. If you are keeping your Rockstopper Sallet, just putting a socketing it using the Larzik socket quest at this point might be something to think about until you can find your own Shaco, basically, just to get you by with more MF. Good idea. Same for the Harlequin Crest. Getting more MF is always good. Now, we're keeping a lot of items in this build. We're keeping the Mosers for resistances, the Ravenfrost for everything I mentioned before, the Cat's Eye, the Titans. They're all still there, including the Ring, form plus the mana. Something to note though, we are also using the Silkwoos, and we're getting the plus mana there, but we're shedding a lot of our plus mana charms, so our mana pool is going down a little bit. So the belt, Razortail, is a little bit more expensive, but is pivotal for this particular, is quite required for this particular version. It's a low strength variation, so having the pierce plus the maximum damage, again, helping out with our physical damage is always good for going up against immunes. This will be good for also hitting your dexterity breakpoints. Note that we don't have the plus strength or plus dexterity charms because we have plus dexterity here. This gives us 33% piercing attack. We have a lot of plus to skills included from like the Titan's Revenge. We have at least one passive and magic skiller in our inventory at this point. The Harlequin Crest gives plus to skills, so we're getting as close as we can to a soft point 9, which would give you 100% pierce when you combine it with the 33% from the Razortail. However, we're not going to quite make it there. I feel like 98%, just getting up to 8 skill points, is perfectly fine. And even if you don't have the +2 magic and skills on your caster gloves that we're going to craft, as you can see here, you still get 92% pierce, which is more than adequate for this phase. And the reason I don't want to put those points again physically into pierce is because we want to continue leveling our synergies as quick as possible to get as much DPS output as possible. For our caster gloves that we're going to craft, you'll see here they give +3 mana after each kill. Combining that with our Silkweaves that we've held over is going to be +8 total, which is still quite nice quality of life. Indeed, as you kill enemies, you will restore your mana. It gives a little bit of mana regeneration. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to have all of these mods though. So even though we have +2 poison resist, magic find here, these are the nicest stats that I could think of to have, but you don't necessarily have to have these. The poison resist, for example, we have a couple of slots here that have small charms of luck. You could replace those with poison resist small charms instead. With the magic find, I mean, you could just run lower magic find and be fine, right? The skillers, like I said, it's a little bit of a hit because you don't have as high of a pierce, you don't have as high a penetrate, and again, you're trying to keep your critical strike as high as possible for higher physical DPS, but it's not a deal breaker to get through the game, right? crafting these caster gloves that have maybe one of these three things will get you by and be quite nice for this level. Anyways, we are replacing our wealth chest piece, so we're losing a lot of gold find. We're losing the chance guards as well, so we're losing a lot of gold find, but we're going to replace that with a Geed's Grand Charm. It's going to give us gold find, reduces vendor prices, magic find, and this is going to keep our magic find and gold find at a really good level, even though it is slightly lower than before. For hell difficulty, where you're able to find more elite versions of uniques and set items and so forth, I feel this is a good mix of still having everything you would need for a build. You've got mobility, resistances, attack speed, you can, take hits, you have, reduction, you have, mana per kill, mana pool, everything's accounted for here, cannot be frozen. So it's just a really nice composition at this point, even with just a few minor item swaps. Something to note here as well with our mercenary, we are running a defensive mercenary at this point after you reach Act 2 Hell. At level 66, you can use a Taurasius headpiece. You can also use like a Crown of Thieves would be a good option. Just something that has high life leech would be really nice at this point. Going to put a Treachery on our follower. For the same reasons it's good for yourself, it's also good for your follower. And then if you can look out for an ethereal base, that would be nice, but not a deal breaker. Like I said, same for the weapon. If you can't find a Thresher in an ethereal base, no worries. I prefer the Thresher because it has lower requirements. However, if you have to, you can go for a Cryptic Axe at this point. In a few levels, you might not have quite enough strength on the follower at this time. Yeah, see, you might need to wait a few levels for that. But if you can find just a Thresher for socket, that would be best. And then Ethereal reduces the requirements even further, as you can see. So, and the Nightmare Defensive Merc is best because the Holy Freeze Aura, we had the Nosferatus before giving us a little bit of slow, but the Holy Freeze will give even more slow. And one other thing is you run so fast now that your mercenary might not keep up with you, so him being on his own is just having something that can keep him alive is even more important, and the Holy Freeze Aura will help him stay alive more than you. So here we have a different variation that is higher in strength than our low strength. So the paradigm that we've been working on is basically saving stat points so we can place more of a higher vitality. However, if you want to be kind of closer into about 967 life as compared to the 1100 life that we were seeking at level 63, you can go after this high strength variation instead, and you can see the strength goes up to 60 and the dexterity investment from 22 to 39. So a lot of points invested to be able to hit and equip these items, the Valkyrie Wing, the Thunder God's Vigor, and the War Traveler boots. However, they are very beneficial. The War Traveler boots in particular give additive damage, which is going to help your physical damage against monsters, which is important for lightning immunes again. So this could be a better setup for that reason. The Thunder God's Vigor gives plus to Lightning Fury, plus to Lightning Strike. A lot of plus to skills is going to increase the damage of these abilities significantly. You can see here 6k DPS versus about like 5.1, right? So quite nice there as well. And then we're wearing the Valkyrie Wing, which has a lot of other added benefits such as faster run walk, hit recovery as compared to the Harlequin Crest. However, the Valkyrie Wing doesn't have as much magic find, and it does not have as much plus to life or plus to mana. So instead of, it has higher hit recovery, so you can drop some of your hit recovery charms, put more plus mana charms in your inventory. And then you can see what we did here. We had the Silkweave boots before that were giving us plus mana. Now we have the Valkyrie Wing, which gives us plus mana. And notably, it only gives plus 2 to 4 here. So you might have you at least want to get a plus 2 Valkyrie Wing on the skills. But if you happen to get a plus 2 mana after each kill, perfectly fine. Just put a tier rune in it using the socket quest and you'll be just fine. Can it get up to +6, however, +3 from the gloves as well. Same there. Everything else is the same pretty much as well. We're running the Cat's Eye, Titan's Revenge, Moser's, Ravenfrost, and the plus mana ring. Same build pretty much, otherwise the Treachery as well. One other benefit of the Thunder God's Vigor is it gives lightning resistance and lightning absorb. So you can hit higher lightning resistance through your single resistance charms, and also be able to tank gloams a little bit better. So Act 5, Act 4, those type of mobs are a little bit easier to deal with. Something else to note here is that we are dropping the Razor Tail. So this means you're going to have to change your skill allocation a little bit for this variation, putting less points into your synergies as before, and then placing them in Pierce instead. So Pierce sort of drops off at this point. You can see if I was to place more skills, like we get 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, only a little bit extra per point investment after this. So in my opinion, just get up to 14 soft points. That'll give you 79% Pierce. That would be like 7 hard points. And then, you place the rest into synergies. And that should be a decent level of DPS and Pierce and still get you through the game. So it's higher DPS, but you're giving up life, you're giving up the Pierce. So in my opinion, the higher strength variation isn't as good. However, it does have some nice perks, particularly the physical DPS. So this is also a composition that you can run and still, have a good time with before transitioning into an in-game setup, which we are not covering here. This is just early to mid-game Javazon. So I hope you've enjoyed these overviews of all these builds and can make use of them. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.